This is a station identification moment. You're listening to CPR Worldwide Media, a division of CPR Media Network, coming to you live right across the planet. Check out our website at www.cprworldwidemedia.com and our Facebook page at facebook.com/CPR Worldwide Media. This is CPR Media Network, coming to you live from the USA.
Well, looky here, a new listener. Hey, this ain't your little sister's radio station.
Why do cities shine so bright? It's the glow of opportunities, of ideas bouncing off one another, of countless people, every one of us, striving to succeed. Right now, in cities everywhere, ideas are being born. New thinking that will put us in awe of what people are capable of. That's what lights cities up. And helping people and their ideas to burn even brighter, so that communities, businesses, and you and I can grow. What if a bank made that its job? For more than 200 years, Citi's job has been to help empower people and business. Now, around the world, it's wherever people gather, wherever ideas come alive. It's wherever you are. The world's city.
The design of the Ford Escape is clearly intended to grab your eye. Oh, and your foot. Huh, ain't that a kick? The Ford Escape with the foot-activated liftgate. Go open up something interesting. Go further.
However dark the night, however dim our hopes, the light is always there within you.
His family gave him hope.
You fight harder than those other guys, and you win.
His spirit gave him strength.
We're gonna die out here.
We're not dying!
And in his darkest hour,
who is the Olympic athlete?
his faith would not be broken.
Hello, Mother and Father. This will be the first time in 2 years that you'll have heard my voice. I wish you all a Merry Christmas. Your loving son, Louis.
On Christmas Day, experience the unbelievable true story of one man's journey home.
You can take it. You can make it. Just gotta believe you can.
If I can take it, I can make it.
Unbroken, rated PG-13, Christmas Day. The moment you connect, you're no longer in control.
What does this guy want? No claim, no statement.
We're facing a nuclear meltdown. This is only the beginning.
Black Hat, rated R.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by CitizensUnited.org.
Mr. President, members of Congress, you've been making a lot of noise about taking our guns away. But you might want to review history. 1835, Gonzales, Texas Territory. The authorities wanted to confiscate the big gun that protected that colony. You know what the people said? Come and take it. Because they were willing to fight for their freedom and their guns. So are we.
Come and take it if you want it. Come and take it if you think you can. Come and take it, but I warn you, you'll have to pry it from our cold dead hands. We want the freedom that God gave us, so you best not cross that line. If you want this gun, you gotta come through us and take it.
One shot at a time. Just like Gonzales, we're keeping our guns.
Welcome to the State Legislators Roundtable. Your host will be Charles Kacprowicz, Executive Director of Citizen Initiatives and Countermand Amendment. Our special legislator guests will be discussing important issues in their states that relate to federal encroachment on states' rights. The nonpartisan Article 5 single-issue countermand amendment can remedy many states' issues peacefully without the consent of Congress, the courts, or the executive branch. We will reclaim our constitutional republic soon. The nonpartisan countermand amendment is the missing piece of the Article 5 puzzle. Our nation is coming apart at the seams. So, we are countermanding.
Good evening, folks. This is Charles Kacprowicz. I am the Executive Director from Citizen Initiatives and the Countermand Amendment. Welcome to the State Legislators Roundtable. Roundtable discussions with state legislators and community leaders center around critical issues in the states as they relate to federal encroachment on states' rights, and how the nonpartisan Countermand Amendment can remedy many of them safely and quickly. This is not a gotcha forum. We're not here to back our guests into a corner. We encourage serious discussions of issues important to our guests and to their states. Subjects can include taxation, criminal law, energy policies, healthcare, social issues, federal land grabs, court decisions, education, executive orders, unfunded liabilities, EPA, BLM, IRS, and more. You will learn through the program that we have how to protect your enumerated rights in the Constitution and how the states and their citizens can identify, define, and protect their unenumerated rights in the 9th and 10th Amendments peacefully and permanently. Our roundtable members tonight include Sandy Toth, our Executive Coordinator and Georgia State Director, Mike Coombs, National Director and Alaska State Director, and Kelly Gordon, our National Coordinator, Texas State Director, and our producer. We now have, I believe, 15, maybe 16 sponsored states for the nonpartisan Article 5 Countermand Amendment. We're expecting to add quite a few to that this legislative session. I have met excuse me for a moment. We have had the honor of meeting many of the country's leading legislators on the State Legislators Roundtable. I see these men and women more as statesmen than politicians. They are trying to find solutions to the many problems their citizens face, especially as they relate to overreach by the federal government. We have been growing. We have well over 100,000 right now every week who listen to our program, and we are expecting that to grow. If you want to learn more about the Countermand Amendment, go to countermands.us, COUNTERMANDS.us. Also, invite your friends and relatives to join with us tonight. We have two distinguished guests from the state of Delaware. I will introduce them here in a moment. They are CPR Worldwide Media. The address to go to that you ask your associates and friends and relatives to tune into, cprworldwidemedia.com/live-radio. You can also call in at 956-217-0031 if you have questions or comments that you would like to make with our panel or with our guests. Now, I am going to just give a very general introduction to two men from Delaware, and then I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves and some of the areas that they're involved with in their state, and then we'll have a discussion from there to address different issues that are of concern to them, their state, and the nation as a whole. Senator Dave Lawson is from Delaware, and we have also Representative Smyk from Delaware as well. So first, I want to welcome both of you, Senator Lawson, for coming to our program tonight. Representative Smyk, I do appreciate you joining us as well, and I would like you to just share with us what it is that you feel the audience needs to hear, and we will try to respond accordingly, or our roundtable members. And Representative Smyk, why don't you join with us first?
Well, thank you very much. I have to let you know that the invitation for this evening was from my friend, and he's been a very good friend to me, Senator Dave Lawson. And I believe that one of the things that we see here in Delaware is a problem with Common Core, and I believe that Senator Lawson has had some much more meetings than I have on the issue. I've talked to some teachers about Common Core and how it's affecting our education here on a small scale at our high school levels, and I don't see a whole lot of teachers that are for it. I do see some teachers that are managing it well, and I believe that Senator Lawson probably has a lot more to say about it than I do. Senator?
I'm here. Well, thanks, Steve, and thanks for accepting the invitation, and certainly all the producers and the directors and all, thank you very much for having us tonight. I'm very concerned with the federal government's overreach in our education. It is damning our future, and they continue to dangle the money carrot, and our state administrations are absolutely co-conspirators in the hijacking of our education.
I think
we see it here.
Yeah, I don't know what anybody has to say on the other side, like Mike or Sandy, but what I've seen with our teachers is that this particular movement with Common Core, not saying that it's not managed in poorly by some other school districts, but when I talk to the teachers, one of the teachers, or many of the teachers, are they see that we test far too often. So now they've taken away the ability of a classroom teacher to find out how to teach that particular individual student and teach them how to reason, and we are teaching them how to take a test. What that does is it creates a workforce that's great test takers, but they don't know how to get out of a problem.
I'm interested in discussing that even more. I would like to emphasize this, that because of the problems that the states have had in areas of education, as well as in many other areas, what has happened is our constitutional republic has lost its shine. My deepest concern is that the states retain their excellent characters. I was invited recently to a special event in Louisiana, and the senator said to me at that time, he said, "What I'd like to do, Charles, is to show you the Cajun culture." Well, I can't go to New York and get the Cajun culture. I can only go to Louisiana and get it. And there are characteristics in Delaware that you folks want to protect. And what has happened is the states are unable to address issues that are imposed on them on a national basis, either through the Supreme Court or through the Congress or the regulatory agencies. There are a whole host of ways in which the government inadvertently sometimes imposes its will on the people. We had a wonderful guest one time from Hawaii, and his name was Senator Sloan, I believe his last name was. Please correct me, Mike, if I'm wrong, but I think it was Sloan, am I right?
Sam I am Sloan.
Okay, that's what I thought. It was several months ago, so I didn't, my memory wasn't current. But at any rate, he starts to tell us that he has many, many titles in the Senate. And he began to explain that he is the minority leader, and he has this title, and he has that title. And we started to wonder, what in the world is he doing out there in Hawaii? And he said to us, he said, actually, I'm the only Republican in the Hawaiian Senate, so I do whatever I want over here. But he said something that I thought had a lot of wisdom, and I think it applies to every state. He said, one of the biggest problems that the Democrats have in the states and the Republicans is unfunded liabilities. I'd like you guys to comment on that, and I want to go back to Common Core because there's a tie-in with the two, especially when it comes to getting funded. Senator Lawson, did you have any comment that you feel we should hear?
Well, they're constantly putting things down, and education being one of those as far as unfunded liabilities. They dangle the carrot, and then we're left to deal with the scraps that are left behind that we've got to pay for. Once that money goes away, the unfunded liabilities sinks our education system. Our budget is is bloated. 1/3 of our budget, fully almost half of our budget, state budget, goes to education here because the federal government came in, dangled the carrot, we jumped on it, and they bailed out and left us to sink. And that's okay. We'll swim, we won't sink. But again, the unfunded liability just in the education side of it is devastating to Delaware.
Well, and other states too. Go ahead, Representative Smyk. Please add to that if you have comments.
But the senator is putting up that one example, and that is education. But there's so many different avenues to look at as well. I think for an example, we'll give you that the Army Corps of Engineers has apparently they've stopped their funding for things that in Delaware they were always available for, the dredging of our inland waterways, some of the services that they always were responsible for inside some of these waters. That's very important to an economy that has a lot to do with fishing and the boating industry, the recreational fishing as well as commercial fishing. Now that Delaware, in a bad economy, some of the things that we're doing, not saying that we manage our money perfectly, but now we need to fill this void, and we can't afford to do so. And that is the error of the ways of all states by going ahead and taking advantage of federal monies. We need to be able to stand on our own, and that's what we haven't done.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. My team couldn't agree with you more. Have either of you read the Countermand Amendment? Have you had a chance to look at the amendment in the text for the amendment?
Negative.
Yes, I have.
And who was that? Lawson? David Lawson?
Lawson.
Yeah. Yes, okay. Senator Lawson, just bear with me. I'm going to, for the sake of our audience, and also to show how this might apply to the state of Delaware, especially with the issues that you've been just addressing here. I'd like to read two sections. Section 1. And by the way, this article, this Countermand Amendment, along with the delegate resolution, and I can discuss that more later with you, but the fact is, this is being received extremely well in the states. I'm presently on the road. I'm on a 3-month tour. I didn't have Delaware scheduled, but I've got 35 state capitals to visit during this tour. Tomorrow I will be up in North Dakota. I'll be at a reception, and on Thursday I will be at the state capitol addressing several committees there. Then I'll come back to South Dakota, Wyoming, and I'll be heading west. And by the time I come back, it'll be early May, and we'll have hopefully visited with 35 states. But the reason that I'm saying that is because first of all, let me go back for a second quickly. Many state legislators have been on this roundtable. I think last year we probably had 70 or so, men and women from the different states. Now what they're asking is that they could get some help in their states to help get the amendment through their committees, because there's a lot of misunderstanding about Article 5. There's a lot of misunderstandings of why the founders gave us Article 5. And I will address some of those if it's of interest to you. The article restores state sovereignty in our constitutional republic. How? By providing state legislatures countermand authority. I added the word how. Section 2. State legislators in the several states shall have the authority to countermand and rescind any congressional statute, judicial decision, executive order, treaty, government agency's regulatory ruling, or any other government or non-government mandate, including excessive spending and credit, imposed on them when, in the opinion of 60% of the state legislatures, the law or ruling adversely affects their state's interest. When the countermand threshold has been reached, the law or ruling shall be immediately and automatically nullified and repealed. This countermand authority shall also apply to existing laws and rulings. What I'm reading here is something that could address the Common Core problem. It also could address some of the unfunded liability problems. And once this is ratified, and I'm hoping that we can get it ratified in 2016, but once it's ratified, what's going to happen is the state legislatures are going to figure out how to use it among themselves. It'll be a tool that you've never had before. And you'll be able to say to the federal government, look, There are some places where you belong. We don't want to put you out of business. We know that there's a legitimate role for the federal government in protecting the states and providing a number of services that are needed and so forth. But on the other hand, you went too far. And on this issue, we've got 30 countermands and we're going to rescind it. And if in fact that happens, the federal government has two choices. They can rewrite that law in a way more amenable to the states, subject to the fact that it too could be countermanded. So they're going to be careful. Or two, they can just abandon it. And now, having said that, folks, why don't you share with us, Representative Smyk, if you have a comment that you would like to add to that, I would love to hear it.
No, I did not read that, so it's good for me to absorb that. I had a very little bit of time before I got on your show to research anything, and obviously I didn't do any research because I dealt with a constituent here. And that seems to be something that encompasses every state legislator, and that is constituent service. So we look for ways to come together and work together and pool our resources together to determine how we can safely stand up on our own feet away from the federal government. And I think that you are correct. You alluded to that there's a need for federal government. Absolutely, there's a need for the federal government, and it certainly does have its place. Has it overstepped its boundaries in many instances? But it seems that states fail to recognize when that occurs because it comes with a gift, and the gift is funding. What's terrible is that many politicians seem to take that funding and use that as if there's no end to it. There's always an end to it. That funding is never forever. So then the good program, the startup program, either falls to nothing or is absorbed into the state's budget. And after a while, you just can't afford to do that.
Absolutely, and you're hitting the nail right on the head. There is a great difference between national politics and state politics. And one of the reasons why the Countermand Amendment is being received as well as it is because it's a state issue. It's not a federal issue. And the fact is that it gives the legislatures a power that they need. They have it in Article 5, and I'll address some of that if we have time, dealing with the sovereignty of the state legislatures under Article 5. But yes, it can be used to address the issues that you're talking about and correct some of the problems of overreach. Senator Lawson, did you want to comment on the reading of this amendment and perhaps your reading of it also?
Well, certainly it would give us a tool. As you said, my concern is that we being so blue that the tool, one, we wouldn't be involved in ratifying it, and two, even if we did, it wouldn't be used. Remember, we have the federal government deeply nested in Delaware and the vice president, and they're not going to buck that in any way, shape, or form. They continue to dangle the money, and we continue to jump at it. So as long as that is the carrot, we're willing to avoid the stick by doing whatever it is that the federal government wants us to do, and that is overreach in so many different areas, from, like Representative Smyk said, the Army Corps of Engineers to ATF. It continues, and I think the amendment is something that is given to us via Article 5.
Yes, and you're absolutely right. It will not be an easy pass, a ratification in some of the blue states. I understand that. I used to have an office in Delaware, by the way. I think it was in a place called Newark. Do you have a Newark, Delaware? It was many years ago.
Yes, we do.
Okay, yeah, I had an office, telecommunications office there many, many years ago. However, I want to go back to something you said that is very important, and that is, how does Delaware, as a blue state, benefit from the Countermand Amendment? That's a good question. How can we use it effectively for the good of the people in Delaware? And here's an idea that may help to sort that question out. There are issues important to Delaware that would not be important to, let's say, Texas. And you're not going to find some common ground on those issues. And so as a result, Texas may countermand something, but you guys won't. On the other hand, there very well could be, like Common Core, by the way, that's a big issue that the states have. The conservative states, the liberal states, the blue, the red, it doesn't matter their politics, they know something is wrong with Common Core. And there's a lot of complaints about it. So there is an example of how the Countermand Amendment can be used by the states in a very effective way. There's a second way. Let's assume that you don't have land grab issues, but Nevada does. And Nevada needs one more countermand in order to rescind a law that is preventing Nevada from effectively using its land. By the way, 82% of Nevada's land is controlled by the federal government. So you can get some idea of the problem that's existing here. We had a couple of representatives from New Hampshire on one night, and I was surprised to find out that 20% of New Hampshire is controlled by the federal government. And I was just stunned to find I didn't imagine any New England state had a problem, but they had a problem. So at any rate, here's how it might work. You may say, hey, I think that this land grab issue is a serious problem for the states, although Delaware doesn't suffer from it. But at the same time, if I work an arrangement with Nevada, I could actually countermand that particular law that Nevada is concerned about, because it would be one law at a time. It's not like putting the whole government out of business. What you're saying is that particular law is not going to be acceptable to us in this state or in 29 other states. So you would then join with that particular law, and then Nevada would join with your interest, whatever it happens to be. Now all of a sudden you've got a balance of power between yourselves and between the federal government that is really what I believe the whole purpose of having a constitutional republic is all about. And my final comment before I ask or invite you guys to make a comment or add a comment or question, my final comment is I firmly believe that if the state legislatures do not step up to the plate and exercise their authority in Article 5, especially through this amendment, the Countermand Amendment, that we will not be able to restore our constitutional republic. That's my goal, by the way. I want to see our constitutional republic restored to where there is a balance. And the states are not dominating the federal government, but the federal government is not dictating to the states either. And this Countermand Amendment just might be the tool to make that happen. Senator Lawson, did you want to comment on that?
Well, certainly it's a tool in forming a coalition between other states simply to get sufficient votes. That's collaboration that works. I think that our constitutional government has been dragged down so far that it's going to be hard to get the states to realize that we have been given a tool by our founding fathers that we can recover. In getting that education out, and I applaud you for doing it, is extremely hard, because when you speak to folks about Article 5, they have no idea of what you speak until you can hand them a copy of it, and it has to be in context, of course. Most of the legislators have no idea what Article 5 is or what it means to us.
You're absolutely right, by the way, and it is something. Now, I've been involved with amendments to the Constitution for over 40 years, so I'm not a newcomer to this, and I probably have the longest history of anyone in this country dealing with amendments through Congress and or through legislators under Article 5. But it has been a difficult task getting people to understand why Article 5 is important, even with legislators. And before I give the reason for that, I'd like Representative Smyk, do you have something to add to what Senator Lawson just said?
Charles, let's everyone hold this thought. We need to take a very short station break, and we will be right back with this great conversation. Stay tuned, everyone.
Very good.
This is CPR Media Network, coming to you live from the USA.
Citigold is an account from a global bank with over 200 years experience, offering international banking expertise across over 100 markets. Your dedicated investment consultant adds a unique personal touch to your banking experience. Complimentary lifestyle offers like Marhaba service and free global money transfers help you save on time and money. At the core of Citigold is your dedicated relationship manager, personally looking after your financial needs. Be it lifestyle privileges like golf, lounge access across the Middle East, or worldwide privileges, Citigold provides you with a rewarding experience. One card is all you need for all your Citibank accounts. As a Citigold client, you benefit from our international expertise and global reach. Citigold is more than an account. It's a personal banking service offering exceptional privileges, customer service and recognition worldwide. So wherever you are, Citigold will be with you.
The most amazing thing about the Ford Fusion isn't the way it looks. The most amazing thing is the way it sees. With blind spot technology, a lane keeping system, and a standard rear view camera, the Fusion is ready for whatever comes your way. Go prepared. Go further.
However dark the night, however dim our hopes, the light is always there within you.
His family gave him hope.
You fight harder than those other guys, and you win.
His spirit gave him strength.
We're gonna die out here. We're not dying!
And in his darkest hour,
Who is the Olympic athlete?
his faith would not be broken.
Hello, Mother and Father. This will be the first time in 2 years that you'll have heard my voice. I wish you all a Merry Christmas. Your loving son, Louis.
On Christmas Day, experience the unbelievable true story of one man's journey home.
You can take it. You can make it. Just gotta believe you can.
If I can take it, I can make it.
Unbroken, rated PG-13, Christmas Day. The moment you connect, you're no longer in control.
What does this guy want?
No claim, no statement.
We're facing a nuclear meltdown. This is only the beginning.
Black Hat, rated R.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Mr. President, members of Congress, you've been making a lot of noise about taking our guns away. But you might want to review history. 1835, Gonzales, Texas Territory. The authorities wanted to confiscate the big gun that protected that colony. You know what the people said? Come and take it. Because they were willing to fight for their freedom and their guns. So are we.
Come and take it if you want it. Come and take it if you think you can. Come and take it, but I warn you, you'll have to pry it from my cold dead hands. We want the freedom that God gave us, so you best not cross that line. If you want this gun, you gotta come through us and take it.
One shot at a time. Just like Gonzales, we're keeping our guns.
Welcome back, folks, to the State Legislators Roundtable. This is Charles Kacprowicz, the Executive Director for Citizen Initiatives and the Countermand Amendment. You can learn more about the work we're doing by going to countermands.us. There are a number of links, including a Countermand Amendment video that helps to explain the different steps involved with this amendment under Article 5. You can make a donation if you'd like to. You can also come click one of our links, join us, or contact us, letting us know how you can help us in our state, or in your state, I should say. Now, I am on the road right now, folks. I will be traveling to 25 state capitals. I'm in South Dakota right now. Go to the countermands.us, click the itinerary that I have posted on the website, and see what date I'm going to be in your state. And then let us know how we can work together to help your legislature understand the importance of this particular initiative under Article 5. Now, Senator Lawson and Representative Smyk, I want to give a little bit of a quick history here. And Mike Coons, you get ready to share something at your end, okay? Mike is our national director out of Alaska. Okay. First of all, we're looking at this thing wrong. We look at it legally or politically, rather than from the advantage of seeing the sovereignty in it. You see, the biggest problem that the nation-state legislatures had under Article 5 was how do they settle the sovereignty issue? And they had no solution to it. That's why we almost lost the Revolutionary War, because under the Articles, an amendment to the Constitution required unanimous consent by the legislatures, and there were 13 at that time. Now, when they went to the Constitutional Convention, and we won't rehearse the history here because we have some very strong positions on that. And by the way, I do have a book, folks. You can pick it up on Amazon. We just published it the other day, called Countermand Amendment, The Missing Piece in the Article 5 Puzzle. And it's $19.95 plus shipping, and Amazon will ship it to you just as quickly as you need it. But before the deliberations at the Constitutional Convention started, the biggest problem that had to be settled was a sovereignty issue on how the votes would take place. And so there was a gentleman by the name of Delegate George Wythe from Virginia. And he was a very prominent man. He was a lawyer, a professor, a teacher. He was a scholar, and he had a committee, and he put the committee together in such a way where they had 8 different points that they settled on as to the rules that would be followed at this convention. But the biggest rule of all was dealing with how they would vote. The largest states wanted the votes based on population. The little states, like Delaware, they wanted it based on 1 vote per state. They saw themselves as sovereign. And in their discussions and deliberations with the other delegates, the smallest states won. That Constitutional Convention was actually a Republican convention because it was protecting the individual rights of the states. And then from there, they went into other issues. Now, under Article 5, however, there is no Constitutional Convention. Article 5 simply says it's for proposing amendments when it goes through the convention process. And that means that it isn't a question of getting some political understanding of what Article 5 is. It's not a matter of trying to get some legalese involved with this. It's a matter of understanding that sovereignty trumps it all. And so how did they settle this problem of sovereignty under Article 5 and from the Articles of Confederation? How they did it is they changed the unanimous vote requirement to 3/4 to ratify. And so now some states lost, but a lot of states won. And as a result, they all recognized that this was a way in which to settle issues. Some will get what they want and some won't, but the next time up, those that didn't will gain some advantage and some others won't. And so the 3/4 requirement for ratification was how the voting was settled. Now that same sovereignty, Senator Lawson and Representative Smith, you have in Article 5. The only thing is, instead of using it for a constitutional convention, which we don't need anymore, we already have a constitution, and the founders gave us, and the state legislatures then gave us Article 5 for the purpose of proposing amendments so that differences can be settled peacefully, not based on some political power or party or whatever. And by doing it that way, they recognized that the states would retain their sovereign authority. Now, I wanted to throw that out to give you some understandings from our perspective, and I'll give you an opportunity, if you would like, to comment on that. Senator Lawson?
Well, certainly it we've been given the tool again. It's the education. If you give me a chainsaw and I don't know how to start it, I sure can't cut a tree down. And that's what we're up against. We have people who have no idea what Article 5 is, and I think that we can certainly use it once we get there, and it will be a great tool for us. Again, I'm kind of stuck with the idea of how we're going to get these folks educated, and that's why I'm reaching out to you all to lend a hand to get this done.
Well, I'm going to have Mr. Mike Coons come in and talk about our delegate resolution, because actually we can have an Article 5 convention called the Countermand Amendment Convention, a single-issue convention, similar to the way Congress sent the Bill of Rights out. They sent single issues out, and the states could vote them up or down one at a time. Well, this is the same strategy, but only this time it's in your hands, not Congress. But at any rate, there is a delegate resolution, and Mike, I'm going to ask you to kind of join with us on that in a quick moment. But the idea that Article 5 is a constitutional convention, we've got to get rid of that, because the only way that we can have another constitutional convention is by the states seceding from the Union, calling their own convention, not under Article 5 because it wouldn't allow it, and at the same time creating a new constitution and a new government. And we don't have to do any of that, because Article 5 gives you all of the authority that you need to redirect the affairs of our nation in a way that's peaceful, and we don't have another civil war on our hands. So that's very important that we get a handle around that. That's part of what I talk about when I meet with these legislators in the different states. Now, Mike, would you like to join with us and tell a little about the delegate resolution and how it would solve some of the security issues at a convention, the Amendment Convention?
Okay, yeah, real quick, because there's some comments I want to do from a nonpartisan standpoint of this as well, that has been brought up that I'd like to discuss as well. The delegate resolution is very simple. What it does is, the very matter of fact, what we've written, and you can find it at countermands.us. You can pull up the tab for it. It starts off with, this is that under Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution, this is a Republican form of convention, and all states have equal standing, which means one state, one vote, and majority rules, 51%. So really all we need then is 26 states out of the total 34 that we need for ratification to pass the same identical delegate resolution. Along with that delegate resolution, it also binds the delegates to the state of Delaware. So when they go to that convention, wherever that convention may be, they are bound to you. And because the Countermand Amendment is part and parcel of the delegate resolution, because you, the state of Delaware, have approved the wording of the Countermand Amendment, then when they get to that convention, the only thing they can do is to vote for that amendment. Now, there's going to be some changes. Some states are going to want to make some changes, and we understand that. Most of it's going to be relatively minor. We have a mechanism to do that, where it's going to be a credentials committee you'll have that will oversee the delegates, and then if there's a question or there's a change that wants to become up, your delegates will go to your credential committee saying, this is what is being proposed, what's your pleasure? And the credentials committee says, yeah, no problem, or no, not no, but heck no. And then it again boils down to that 51% majority deal. So it's safe, it's efficient, and frankly, sirs, worth looking at a week, because as long as we have that 51% majority at the convention with this clear-cut delegate resolution that defines that convention, it's safe, efficient, and timely. Now, let me go back to what you were talking about as far as the nonpartisan aspect to this thing. I've been invited to one of our Democrat meetings here, and I want to be doing that probably in the next week or so. And when I talked to the gentleman, I asked him, I said, well, what are some of the what are some of the federal overreach issues that impact the Democrat Party and people that are Democrats? And I said, that's what I really would like to know, because I'm a Republican, I'm a hardcore conservative, so it's kind of hard for me to get into that skin. And the first thing he said was Patriot Act. Well, I'm sure that you've heard there's a lot of Ron Paul people out there, Rand Paul people that just despise the Patriot Act. So there's common ground between the conservative and the liberals on that one. You got NSA, the NSA overreach that's been going on. That's a potential, and that impacts the left and the right. Common Core, education, the education overreach that is costing everybody. It's costing everybody a bunch of money. Because it's not just, as you said earlier, the federal government dangles this thing and you guys go jumping for it. It's getting down to the point now that they dangle it about 10 feet higher each day, so you having to jump higher, and now you can't reach it, and now you can't do anything with it. So there's a frustration factor that's out there that if we bring in those I would say more moderate Democrats, at the least, and bring them in and find out where we have common ground. And then that way, when let's say you want to do something about No Child Left Behind, that's a big one. I know the Democrats just hated No Child Left Behind. So does a lot of Republican states. So let's say that you wanted to countermand No Child Left Behind. You did that. I'm betting you, I would bet money, marbles, and donuts, Alaska would be, hey, Delaware, we're with you. Texas would be the same way. I'm sure that a lot of western states and southern states that are all impeded with this as well would be right there with you. So it wouldn't take that much to get 30. And then lastly, let me just end with this, is that you got about 13 very strong blue states that are, New York, Delaware, Massachusetts, Connecticut, up the seacoast, of course, Illinois, and then you got the People's Democratic Republic of California out there with Jerry Brown. But in all 13, let's say those 13, 14, 15 states are really fed up with some of these major issues. Well, I think when you find out the commonality of the conservative states on those particular issues, you would come to 30 states in a heartbeat. Now, agreed and granted, from a political standpoint, there are going to be certain things that just not going to happen. It's just not going to fly. Delaware would never go along with repealing the 1968 Gun Control Act, for instance. But that's fine. They wouldn't be part of that 30. So, but that's the kind of some of the things that we're looking at here. I know my representative Shelley Hughes, who's sponsoring this, she's having me think outside the box, think like a Democrat, and try to work my way into this and trying to figure out how we can bring in more Democrats on this, because frankly, Obama's got so many people mad with stealing our lands up here again that this thing's probably going to pass 100% just because he's ticked off the Democrats so bad. But I'll turn it back over to you. Does that help you, gentlemen?
Yes.
I have something to talk about that I want us to discuss here in a moment, called the National Strategy Committee, that I'm going to invite the both of you to as a member. But what I also want to ask is, did you want to make some comment on what Mike was just sharing with regard to how it might be used?
Well, go ahead, Steve.
Well, I was just going to refer to you, Senator. I've known the Senator for a long time, and as Mike's talking, well, I know what's going through my mind, and he's got some of the same things going through his mind as well. So I think that we are embracing this idea to do something like that, but what we need is some leadership. And what's sad is that I only know about Delaware. I work in Dover. That's where I work, so I can tell you about the House of Representatives in the state of Delaware, and Senator Lawson. He can tell you about every person in the Senate, and it doesn't look like we would be doing anything in this thought anytime soon. So it's going to have to be a discussion. We're going to have to start opening some eyes and have an education for the majority party. The majority party right now just happens to be Democrat, but again, Senator Lawson can attest, I'm sure, that we have plenty of friends on the other side of the aisle that
we have. Let me interject one quick before Senator Lawson comes on. I am available to speak to your legislators. Any meetings, doesn't have to be a committee meeting, just a seminar of some kind. So you just let us know when something like that can be set up, and I will be glad to schedule the time to be there. Senator Lawson, why don't you go ahead?
Even a teleconference, says Charles.
Yes. Oh, that was Senator Lawson.
A lot of folks that are set up with what's going on in the federal government, and again, it's not party specific. It's getting them over the fear of taking a step forward. Everybody's comfortable where they are. They're not comfortable with going out and attacking, if you will, and that's how they look at it, the Constitution. Because if you open up with a constitutional convention, look what happened in 1787. And, that's how, and then there's nullification. We're getting emails and hate mail in some cases. If we don't want to have an Article 5 convention, we just want nullification. However, when they think about, they don't look very far when it comes to nullification. We can't nullify the gun control legislation of 1968. We might do it in the state, but if I'm an FFL holder, I'm still under the guise or under the control of the federal government. So nullification is not it. But trying to, again, I hate to keep going back to this, but getting these folks over that fear of taking that step, and they find out the water is not deep, it's not cold, it's actually warm and friendly. As I found when I stepped in there, I found out that this is not to be feared. This is to be welcomed and embraced, so that we can go forward and get back our state sovereignty.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, sir. I want to add how much time do we have, Kelly?
We have about 7 minutes.
Hello?
Charles?
I'm still here. I don't know if we lost him or not, Steve.
Well, it seems like it's just me and you, Senator.
No, he's back.
Oh, you're back. Okay.
Yeah, Charles. Well, no, Charles. Are we back? Yeah, Charles is back now. Okay.
One quick, easy way to put it is the language needs to be clear. There's a lot of people throwing around the term constitutional convention, and this is an amendment convention. We're not proposing a constitution, we're proposing an amendment. And people just, they get mixed up.
And not only that, Kelly...
a constitutional amendment, I would think, far more palatable. I think we could get more folks on board when we say it's an amendment convention as opposed to we're going to attack the Constitution. I'm scared to death of that.
Well, the exact words that I like to use, the Citizen Initiatives, Article 5, Countermand Amendment Convention. And I try never to deviate. It's always an amendment convention. That's where people get mixed up. And I guess you say the word constitutional convention, con. There was only one, there only ever will be one, and that's where we got our beloved Constitution. There's never going to be another con. Only an Article 5 amendment
30 plus
convention.
Years ago, when the balanced budget amendment was being advanced, without a delegate resolution. So we have some problems to deal with that. But the fact is, when it was being advanced, the John Birches and the Constitution Party people and some libertarians, and there were a few liberals on the left. And what they did is they attacked the whole idea that Article 5 was dangerous. And because it was dangerous, it can only be a constitutional convention. And the reason why their assumption is wrong is because they do not understand the difference between the delegates who were at the Constitutional Convention in 1787 for the purpose of creating a constitution, and the delegates that are sent legislatures under Article 5 to an amendment convention. Their purpose is to be ambassadors of their legislators. They are not there to create a new constitution. And as a result, if we just get that simple thought together, what will happen is the states will embrace this. Now, I want to talk about two important aspects of this amendment. We have a strategy called the 34, 26, 38, 51 strategy. And Kelly had begun to address it a little while ago. But basically it goes like
going again.
For the Countermand Amendment Convention. As best we can count, state legislators in the 50 states. But we only need about 2,500 of them to approve this. Why? Because we only need 51% of the legislators in those legislatures in order to get this amendment through their state legislature. So when you look at the 34, and as a result, 51% is the magic number. We don't need 75% of the state legislators because the state legislatures are not requiring that in their own constitution and or in their own statute. The second is when you go to 26. Why 26? Well, 26 is the number that we need in order to have the convention to go very safe. We don't concern ourselves too much with the Constitutional Convention. We think that's a misnomer. But we do concern ourselves with the possibility of mayhem. If we wound up with 534 politically charged delegates summoned by Congress and appointed by the states, and they don't have any direction other than they just want a reigning in government idea to be discussed, or a balanced budget amendment to be discussed, I think we're going to have a lot of trouble. But if the states pre-approve an amendment, and they do so, 26 of them do so, saying this is the amendment we want the delegates to vote on, now every state has a right to decide if they want to up or down that, but the convention is determined to vote on just one amendment. That's what the delegate resolution does. It sets and the guidelines and the safety margins that are needed to make sure that that amendment. Well,
we're I don't know about you all, but I can barely hear him. He's breaking up very badly. I'm losing him.
Yeah,
okay.
I too.
Okay, can you hear?
I think, Kelly, I think we might be out of time here shortly, Kelly.
Yes,
Yeah,
we've got about 1 minute until the end of this segment.
We can go into a second hour, gentlemen. If you want to stay with us, you can do that.
I personally am going to have to go here shortly, and
Okay.
I do apologize, but I
Then let me-
want to thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir. And I want to add this. We have a National Strategy Committee. What's that? Legislators like yourself will be sending you an invitation. And the legislators
Going digital. Charles.
actually deciding what issues need to be addressed. Once you select the issues, you'll be taking a vote on it. And you'll be saying, this is where we want to go forward with this particular law or ruling. Then when you decide what it is that you want a countermand, then citizen initiatives will go into the states and address it, present it so we can get the 30 countermands, so that Article 1 is not violated. What's that? So that you don't have an interstate compact between one another, which violates Article 1 without the consent of Congress. So it's a strategy that can work, and you guys are the ones that are still in charge because it's your sovereignty that we are actually advancing. Now listen, folks, we do have to go to a break. We got about 5 seconds.
I wish you a safe trip, Charles, and with all your numerous 35 states that you're headed to.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Charles, for the opportunity to speak, and Senator Lawson for inviting me.
Thanks for being
It's our
here.
pleasure.
Identification moment. You're listening to CPR Worldwide Media, a division of CPR Media Network, coming to you live right across the planet.
My name is Christopher Perkins, Captain, United States Marine Corps. I spent 9 years in the Marines and led a team in Ramadi, Iraq that risked its lives daily. Today, I'm a managing director at Citi, where I oversee a global team that provides safeguards for the $700 trillion derivatives industry.
Veterans, many of them have the right skills to be great bankers. And when they come in, they know how to make decisions, they know how to take risks, they know how to multitask. All of those things make them really great colleagues.
Just like we would go out onto the streets of Iraq, we would do an analysis of what risk we're taking and thinking about ways to mitigate it. It's no different here.
That makes them extremely valuable, and that's why we want them here helping our clients.
This industry requires our clients' trust. It requires a high degree of integrity. And so just like the Marine Corps, your reputation is what it is, and your word is very important.
It's not about how many miles you can get out of the C-Max hybrid. It's about how much life you can fit into it. The Ford C-Max hybrid, with an EPA estimated range of 540 miles on a tank of gas, and all the room you need to enjoy the trip. Go stretch out. Go further.
However dark the night, however dim our hopes, the light is always there within you.
His family gave him hope.
You fight harder than those other guys, and you win.
His spirit gave him strength.
We're gonna die out here. We're not dying!
And in his darkest hour,
Who is the Olympic athlete?
his faith would not be broken.
Hello, Mother and Father. This will be the first time in 2 years that you'll have heard my voice. I wish you all a Merry Christmas. Your loving son, Louis.
On Christmas Day, experience the unbelievable true story of one man's journey home.
You can take it. You can make it. Just gotta believe you can.
If I can take it, I can make it.
Unbroken, rated PG-13, Christmas Day. The moment you connect, you're no longer in control.
What does this guy want?
No claim, no statement.
We're facing a nuclear meltdown. This is only the beginning.
Black Hat, rated R.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to have our national anthem sung by the combined choirs of the United States Naval Academy, the United States Air Force Academy, the United States Military Academy at West Point, the United States Coast Guard Academy, and accompanied by the United States Army Herald Trumpets.
But so proudly we hailed as the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land
Welcome back, folks. Again, this is the State Legislative Roundtable. I am Kacprowicz, Executive Director of Citizen Initiatives and Countermand Amendment. Amends.us. That's with an S. Learn about what we're doing. You can watch a video online. You can actually pull down information about the amendment itself. The page, the purpose.
Charles, you're cutting out really bad on us. Charles?
We seem to be having some technical difficulties.
Yeah, we just lost him again.
Well, the gentleman from Delaware, they are
Something
very
is going
concerned
on
about
that
Okay, go ahead, Charles.
All right. Go to. Send this URL, this web address, address on the internet to your friends tonight. Let them know how they also can learn about and get involved with this Countermand Amendment. Tell them about CPR. Tell them to go to cprworldwidemedia.com/live-radio, and we will be excited to have them come and join us, or at least learn from us what it is that we're trying to do. Now, I'm going to begin this new segment with how many out there know what the Magna Carta is? I want you to think for a moment. You know when the Magna Carta was signed? You know who signed it? You know why it was signed? You know the importance of the Magna Carta when it comes to understanding our Constitution. If you would like to make comment on that subject, you can call us at 956-0031. 956-217-0031. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of history right now. What is the Magna Carta? Well, it's a massively influential political document that established constitutional law and paved the way for democracy. Well, that sounds pretty important to me. Doesn't it sound important to you? It paved the way for democracy. It was a constitutional document. When was it dropped? That is, when was it adopted? In June, or on June 15th, 1215, 800 years ago, when King John in England sealed it on the field of Runnymede. What was it about? To avoid an uprising, he signed it, that is King John, and he agreed to limit royal powers and make kings subject to, not above, the law, thus ending the tradition of godlike absolute monarchs. Now, folks, that's our history. Our nation was founded mostly by Englishmen. We have inherited the idea that we can be an independent people, that we're capable of electing good legislators, good congressmen, good senators, good presidents, good justices, that we're capable of governing ourselves, and that the government derives its power from us. That's what this document is doing, and plus it is also forging forward an idea that eventually led to our Constitution. That's how important the Magna Carta is. Now, the creative team, my goodness, there's a whole bunch. No one knows exactly who wrote the text, but it most likely came as a result of negotiations between 25 barons, the king, and the Archbishop, the Bishop of Canterbury. What the critics said? The democratic aspiration is no mere recent phase in human history. It is human history. It permeated the ancient life of early peoples. It blazed anew the Middle Ages. It was written in Magna Carta. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt said that in 1941 in his inaugural address. Now, there are many, many people who have adopted this over the centuries. Pope Innocent III, King Richard, Robert D. Rapaya, John Fitzhugh, Philip Mark, and so forth and so on. And finally, how did it come to be such an influential document for us? Well, do you recall what the founders were concerned about? They were concerned about a government that the people would empower, a government that derived its power from the people. You see, when they were putting the Constitution together, they had all kinds of options. They could have followed the monarchy, which was the safest thing to do. As a matter of fact, George Washington, after the Revolutionary War was finished or done, or we miraculously won, because we almost lost it because of the unanimous vote, independent nature of the states at that time. But George Washington approached one of his majors, and actually he was trying, because of the desperate economic times they were having after the war, he was approached with the idea that he should be the monarch. It just about broke Washington's heart. He had fought, 8 years trying to push the monarchy off of our shores? And by doing that, he was now going to, after doing that, he was now going to become a monarch himself. He was fit to be tied. And then when the opportunities came to go to the Constitutional Convention, which was yet not decided, what I mean by that is the Annapolis Convention was the first one, and then after that it transferred, or the transfer took place, and it became the Constitutional Convention, in which they were going to recreate the Constitution rather than let the Articles of Confederation be modified. They couldn't find a way to satisfactorily modify the Articles. But when he went to the convention, he was determined to make sure that no one there elected him or appointed him as a monarch, because he wanted this to be a republic, and a democratic republic, and a constitutional republic. And by having it as a constitutional republic, the individual states would retain their character, which is one of the things that our earlier guest, I believe it was Senator Lawson, mentioned, the importance of every state retaining its individual character and its individual excellences. And he wanted to make certain that every state retained that identity. Now, their biggest concern when they put that Constitution together was federal power. And so they created a divided government. They said, okay, we will create a judiciary, we'll create an executive and a congressional branch that will check one another and balance one another. Well, they also foresaw, please listen to what I have to say here, I think this is important. They also foresaw the possibility that no matter how wisely they put together a government that had checks and balances with the three branches of government, now there was still a possibility that the federal government would grow too big. And so what did they do? They inserted in the Constitution a little article that today is becoming popular, but people still don't understand it's important in Article 5, so that the states would never lose their sovereignty. That's the whole purpose. Now, you may have one issue that's important to you and another issue that's important to somebody else, and you may say, well, I don't want to support that, and I'm a Democrat, I'm not going to go for it here, and I'm a Republican, or I'm an independent. You know, folks, you're talking about preserving our constitutional republic and preserving state legislature sovereignty. Article 5 is the vehicle that we have to accomplish that task. And the state legislatures in 1787 and then in about 1781, when they finally finished ratifying the Constitution, they gave us that. It didn't come by accident. And the Magna Carta was passed down now to you and I in a way that really does limit government. It really does give liberty to individuals. And that, I'm traveling right now to 35 states. I'm in an RV. It's a lovely little vehicle. But I have freedom to do it. I can go from one state to the next. Why? Because I have liberty. You see, there aren't many countries that have that liberty. And I can do it because we have a constitution that protects my rights. Now, folks, we've got to get behind this Article 5 Countermand Amendment Convention. And I think it's important that those in the audience understand the importance of what we have. Sandy, how would you like to add something to what I was just saying?
I think that people need to be reminded how many rights they have lost under the way things have been going in this country. And they need to understand that it's been a 100-year process. Progressives started off with Woodrow Wilson in the early 1900s, and they have been trying to take over the country, its values, everything else about it. Just think about all the things we constantly worry about. We worry about the federal government taking away gun rights. Okay, there's number one. We're losing our freedom of religion. Number two. People have problems with getting jobs. And just think about that. Obamacare has killed a lot of the jobs because of that 30-hour full-time work week requirement. A lot of people have had their hours cut back or they lost their jobs because of the Obamacare rules. Plain and simple. And you can't blame it on anything else. I've talked to people that worked at places that were getting 35 hours and now they've been cut back to 28 because of that 30-hour work week rule. Energy. The federal government has been busy trying to stifle everything about energy that isn't solar or wind. Anything to do with gas and oil, they've been stifling.
Well, it's another way to starve the state.
Yeah. And the more they take everything down, the more they're in control, and we've got more people on welfare that are relying on the federal government instead of out there getting a decent job and being able to live decently. So little by little, they have whittled away our rights. The school issue, too. I mean, you know, when you go back to this, I've heard so many stories about parents talking about this weird Common Core way of teaching. How many times they can't understand the work themselves to be able to help their children, and their children are all confused with it.
Well, if you ask me, Common Core is psychological abuse.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. And they have...
But it's the other way. I mean, in order to turn the freedom, take our freedoms away, they're trying to turn us into this socialist communist thing. So they have to control the health care because that's the way they're going to, control the people. They've got to control the schools. That way they're going to control the kids. And then tax, so that we're so busy working, trying to pay our taxes that we don't even have time. I remember as a young parent thinking to myself, wow, it seems like people are using the school for the parent because they're so busy working, they don't have time for the kids. And I think, again, that's another part of the strategy. If they want to have a 30-hour week, oh, never mind, I'm not even going to go there. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sandy.
Thank you, Kelly.
Sorry, I had a little outburst.
Oh, I know. I have this periodically, too. It gets almost crazy when you think about all the rights we have lost. The federal land grabs, when they control, and there are many states where they control over 50% of the land in the state. Now that is absolutely ridiculous. The Constitution says they're supposed to have like 1 or 2% to be used for federal government purposes, military. They're not supposed to control 60, 70, 80% of a state. All they're doing is taking control, keeping jobs away from everyone, so that it's even harder to survive.
Well, so you're broke, you have to go on welfare, and that's right where they want you. Dependent.
And Sandy, on what you just said, it's not even just about the 2%. When you look at Clause 17, Article 1, Section 8, it says that it's all persons, like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the states. So the states have to consent to the federal government to give up that land. It's not the other way around.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the federal government, in fact, we've just had an example of it recently with our president trying to ban drilling in Anwar. He wants to be in control so that the state cannot do well and he can fulfill his lovely dream of doing away with oil, which logically can't happen for decades.
And it's worse than that, Sandy, because on last Sunday he called upon Congress to take 22 million acres of land and make it into wilderness, which means we can never, ever, ever use it for any purpose whatsoever. And then on Tuesday, that following Tuesday, he then by executive order took another 9.2 million acres and made it into federal wilderness by a stroke of the pen. And Sally Jewell, the head of the Department of Interior, told Governor Walker that that was just the start, that there was 3 more things coming. That, folks, the land that they took is the entire surface area of several states in the lower 48. That is how much land has been stolen by this out of control wannabe dictator. And the Alaskan people are not and will not be putting up with this. And that's where the counterman is going strong up here. We're going to pass this in the state of Alaska, and we're going to pass it really soon.
Did you not say, Mike, that the state of Utah is in the process of filing the Countermand Amendment with delegate resolution?
Yes.
Okay. Folks,
and good news is New Mexico, as of today, it sent the language to Ledge Legal. Matter of fact, what they did was they took the state of Alaska's application and delegate resolution, and she took that and sent it to Ledge Legal to change out Alaska to New Mexico, and a couple other minor little changes that I'm going to deal with Senate and House rules. Other than that, it's identical to what Alaska's doing, and that's going to be happening. She's going to be filed. That should be filed this week in New Mexico.
Fantastic.
Beautiful.
And of course, last week we had North Carolina confirming that they are filing immediately also, and North Dakota has given us reason to believe that they should be filing this very soon.
And Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, did you say?
And Oklahoma's it should be filing here, as we should be filing any time.
You see, folks, what's happening? All of a sudden, the states are realizing they can reclaim and restore our constitutional republic. They don't have to wait for some statute out of Congress. They don't have to wait for a Supreme Court ruling. You see, the state legislatures have the sovereign authority to amend the Constitution that then requires all 3 branches of government to follow and to honor. So the Supreme Court can't overrule a constitutional amendment. On the other hand, they may usurp the authority, as they did in some decisions like Roe versus Wade, and ratify the Constitution amend the Constitution without ratification from the states. But then that can be countermanded. So all of a sudden, even the Supreme Court will think twice about their decisions. And by the way, that one decision cost America about 50 million babies. So we're talking about some serious, serious matters. And before I go any further, folks, I want to bring to your attention 2 shows that you would do well to listen to simply because they are digging into some of these issues in a way that really gets people to think in the right direction. The first one is a program called Whiskey Tango Foxtrot Show. V. Wright and Jose Estevez have a powerful, penetrating talk show that focuses on bringing to you the news that the media won't talk about, with hard-hitting facts and events that will help you to see who we really are as Americans, where we came from, and where we are going. They are constitutionalists who work tirelessly to preserve our constitutional heritage, states' rights, and personal liberties. Now, you can listen to V and Jose from 7 to 9, Monday through Thursday, every week, and learn some wonderful things about how we ought to be thinking about our government. And the other show is the Right Side Patriot Show with Craig Andreessen and Diane Sori. And it's an investigative reporter and journalist team. They dig some things up that I haven't even dreamed were possible. Israel was a recent example that they had dealing with some activities in Israel at the highest levels of government. And you would do well to listen to them. They are on at 2 p.m. on Wednesdays and 11 a.m. on Saturdays. And so I wanted to just make mention of that to you. Now also, go to countermands.us and learn more about our work. Learn about the Countermand Amendment. Learn how it works. Learn about the enforcement provisions so that the state legislatures, in the absence of federal prosecution against intentional violators, the states can enforce the provisions of the amendment through state laws, which is a very, very powerful tool that protects state legislatures and their sovereign authority in this republic in a very special way. Also, learn about the delegate resolution. Learn how it is that we can have a safe amendment convention under Article 5 with the Countermand Amendment Convention, and how it can be predetermined almost by the states themselves in this process. Now, folks, we're going to have to, we do have a few moments yet. I want the audience to understand the importance of this work. After we finish with the application and ratification, which we trust will happen sometime in 2016, we then will be moving into a different area. It's called the Countermand Initiative period. That's when the National Strategy Committee will be actually selecting the issues that need to be countermanded. And the National Strategy Committee will, with legislators and citizens, they will actually make a determination what the states ought to be countermanding. And as a result, when the 30 states are countermanding a particular law or ruling, it's automatically rescinded. Now, I think this is powerful. I think that this is something that the states need to take a close look at. We're going to be going to break here in a moment. I would like you to know that the State Legislators Roundtable can be heard live on Tuesdays at 9 p.m. to 11 and on Fridays at 8 p.m. to 10. You can listen to it at cprworldwidemedia.com/live-radio. Now, we're going to go to break, folks. We're going to ask our producer to take over, and we'll be back shortly. Stay with us. We have more to talk about and more to share about just how powerful this Countermand Amendment really is.
Thank you, Charles. And like our gentleman from Delaware said, education is key. So head over there to the website, www.countermands.us, and pick up the book. Be right back with more great conversation.
Check out our
And
website
donate.
at www.cprworldwidemedia.com and our Facebook page at facebook.com/CPR Worldwide Media.
Over the next 40 years, the United States population is going to grow by over 90 million people, and almost all that growth is going to be in cities. What's the healthiest and best way for them to grow so that they really become cauldrons of prosperity and cities of opportunity? What we have found is that if that family is moved into safe, green, affordable housing, places that have access to great school systems, access to jobs, and multiple transportation modes, then the neighborhood begins to thrive and really, really take off. The oxygen of community redevelopment is financing. And all this rebuilding that happened could not have happened without organizations like Citi.
One of the things that we really try to do is to collaborate with people like Jonathan Rose, who are really like-minded and really can also provide innovative solutions to social issues.
And Citi has formed a partnership with our company so that we can take all the lessons from the revitalization of urban America to other cities. So we're now working in Chicago and in Washington, D.C., and Newark.
It's branching off of Jonathan's expertise and the fact that he has done so many wonderful affordable housing projects, new development and rehabilitation work. And so we were really seeing that there was a need for his skill in areas even outside of New York.
It's amazing how important safe, affordable housing is to the future of our society.
You meet new people, they want to know what you do. And when you tell them your job is to invest in things like low-income housing and schools and healthcare, they're shocked and they're so surprised that a job like this exists in finance. They always say that they had no idea, and then they want to know how they can get a job like that.
It's not about how many miles you can get out of the C-Max hybrid. It's about how much life you can fit into it. The Ford C-Max Hybrid, with an EPA estimated range of 540 miles on a tank of gas, and all the room you need to enjoy the trip. Go stretch out. Go further.
However dark the night, however dim our hopes, the light is always there within you.
His family gave him hope.
You fight harder than those other guys, and you win.
His spirit gave him strength.
We're gonna die out here.
We're not dying!
And in his darkest hour,
Who is the Olympic athlete?
his faith would not be broken.
Hello, Mother and Father. This will be the first time in 2 years that you'll have heard my voice. I wish you all a Merry Christmas. Your loving son, Louis.
On Christmas Day, experience the unbelievable true story of one man's journey home.
You can take it. You can make it. Just gotta believe you can.
If I can take it, I can make it.
Unbroken, rated PG-13, Christmas Day. The moment you connect, you're no longer in control.
What does this guy want?
No claim, no statement.
We're facing a nuclear meltdown. This is only the beginning.
Black Hat, rated R.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Welcome back, folks, to the State Legislators Roundtable. I am Charles Kacprowicz, Executive Director for Citizen Initiatives and the Countermand Amendment. I'm with my team, Mike Coons, our National Director out of Alaska, our Executive Coordinator, Sandy Toth out of Georgia, and Kelly Gordon, our National Coordinator and Producer out of Texas. And we've had a delightful first hour. We had talked with both Senator David Lawson from Delaware and Representative Steve Smyk from Delaware. It was a very, very enlightening conversation. They realized that this is an amendment that even Delaware needs, and they are looking to find ways to educate their people so that they can advance the idea that we need to preserve our constitutional republic, not our politics. Now, folks, I don't know if you are a Democrat. I don't know if you're a Republican. I don't know if you are at the national level, the DNC, the RNC. It doesn't make a bit of difference. You're talking about the survival of a constitutional republic that's the first of its kind in human history. If we lose this constitutional republic by allowing the federal government, even inadvertently, control the rights of the states, we as individuals will lose. And we will not have the liberties and the privileges and the rights to property and the rights to free markets and the rights to individual choices that and including employment that are needed in order to be a free people. So whoever you are, join us. Go to countermands.us. Learn what it is that we're doing and learn how it is that you can help us. If you want to make a donation, click the donate button up at the top right and just send us some money. And we'll be using it for this trip that I'm on right now to 35 states over 3 months. I won't be back home for 3 months, but I'm looking to accomplish some things that have never been done in our history. Folks, we are making history as we are advancing this work across the nation. Let others know about us. Now also, you can order a copy, an autographed copy if you want, of my new book called Countermand Amendment, The Missing Piece in the Article 5 Puzzle. Go to countermands.us. There is a thumbnail of the book itself. As you scroll down, click the thumbnail. It will send you to an order form. And when we get your order, in the comment field, first of all, just put autograph. And for $25, we will autograph a copy and mail it back to you. It's a historic book. You're going to wish you had it years ago, because it's going to tell you why Article 5 can be used safely and how we can restore our constitutional republic and how we can do it through sovereign states rather than through a national government that controls everything. So keep that in mind. Now, on the program, the State Legislators Roundtable, we have many issues that we discuss. We had some wonderful discussions in the first hour about Common Core. We had talked about unfunded liabilities. We had talked about how the federal government controls the direction of state legislatures and how through money they wind up controlling the sovereign authority of the states. But there are other issues. Listen to what can be addressed with the Countermand Amendment. How about taxation issues of one kind or another? Criminal law. Are you interested in First Amendment rights? You want to protect your right to free speech? Do you want to protect your right to worship as you choose? Do you want to protect your right to petition your government? Well, you can do that with the Countermand Amendment. And you can prevent the federal government from overreaching in these areas, depriving us of our liberties and inalienable rights that are guaranteed in the Bill of Rights and the other amendments. How about energy policies? Are you from an energy producing state? There are 38 of them. Now, I have nothing against wind power. I have nothing against solar. I would that we could advance them as quickly as possible. But until we get them to be a functional, economically feasible, free market type of energy source, we have to retain our traditional energies at the same time. Do you realize that if this nation were allowed to develop energy, domestic energy, for 100% of the states, or at least the states that have energy production, that we actually could pay our debt off to almost $20 trillion in maybe 15 to 20 years. I want you to think about that. So why in the world do we allow the environmentalists who are making everything constantly, millions of jobs have been lost, when in fact we could be the leading energy producer in green energy and traditional energy? It doesn't matter. And we could be funding other nations, providing other nations with energy that they need, cleaner energy that we have, that no other nation has. So why do we let these guys tell us that we can't use energy? We want to preserve our economy, our environment. We know that. We are conservationists. We are not advocating environmentalism as an ideology, but we want to conserve our environment. We want to protect the animals we have. We want to protect the trees and the various elements that we have in the forest and so forth. We want to do that, but there's a way to do that and at the same time not to kill the economy. Unfortunately, the ideologues don't believe that. So there's another example. Healthcare. You want to address anything dealing with healthcare, including the present Obamacare bill? The Countermand Amendment can do it. Is there an aspect of that you don't like, that you need to have countermanded? You'll have a way which to advance that idea with your state legislator. That's what the counterman can do. How about social issues? There are some of you out there who are very pro-life. I happen to be one of them. I want to overturn Roe versus Wade. Why? Because Roe versus Wade has already killed 50 million of our heritage, maybe 57 million, some say. Now, how is it that we've allowed that to happen? Do you realize if those people were alive, that the U.S. government would have generated an additional $20 trillion of taxes? Now, how
Charles,
much did we... Yes.
Remember, it's a 9/11 every day of unborn babies.
Yes, very much so. And that's exactly right. There are about 3,000 unborn babies who are murdered in the womb every single day. Based on bad theology, based on bad ideology, based on bad values. You see, we have an inalienable right to life. How is it that some of us can decide that you can live and you can't? That's unthinkable. That's unconscionable. And yet we've been tolerating that for 42 years to where now we have over 50 million who have perished. We could have paid off our debt with the 20 trillion would have been just in taxes alone. It's incredible how stupid we are, because we allow these ideologues to come into our lives, control aspects of our government, and then destroy us at the same time. It's got to stop. We have a wonderful constitution. We are a constitutional republic. We have a way to make free markets work. We can still protect the interests of the states and the people. We can actually create an environment that's healthy while we're growing our businesses and growing our economy and growing our energy sources. So there's some examples. How about federal land grabs? Mike Coons, our national director, was just saying a little while ago that he, up in Alaska, the president has just issued an edict that literally ties up a land to as many as 3 states down here in the lower 48, and ties it up so it can't be developed. And he did it based on environmentalism. Folks, it's not right, because we can use the land for both. We want to protect the seals. We want to protect the coral. Did you know that the argument from these ideologues before the pipeline was completed up in Alaska was that caribou would be, and the business community and the energy people, they said, no, wait a minute, we need this oil. We need it badly. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the pipeline and elevate it so that the caribou can walk under it. And do you know that today we think that there's over 100,000 more caribou today than there was when this discussion was going on. You see, that's the kind of progress we can make if we think through these things properly. And court decisions, we mentioned that a little bit ago. Education, the first hour we talked about an issue with Common Core. There are many executive orders. How about illegal immigration? How is it that one stroke of a pen by the president, who did an unconstitutional thing, can actually legalize 5 million illegal aliens? How can that happen? And yet that did happen. And now we've got to live in the consequences of that. The Countermand Amendment can correct it and can actually rescind that executive order. Now, how about unfunded liabilities that the states are burdened with, or other Bureau land management decisions that have to Bureau of Land Management that actually enforces its will on the states recently in Nevada. Okay, there are just some things that you need to be thinking about and recognizing the importance. Now, Kelly, did you want to share something at this point?
No, sir, other than just to, education is key, as the gentleman from Delaware was saying. We've got a road ahead of us, and education is key. Get over to the website, get that book, read up on it, find out what the power of the countermand is going to do for your state legislature. Order a book for them. Charles will even send your state legislator a book if you want. I mean, Charles has figured out the safe, fast way to do the Article 5. And it's up to us to figure it out and help educate our state legislatures, because they are the ones who are going to be able to turn this around. The beauty of the Article 5 is that our brilliant founding fathers knew that tyranny would someday rear its ugly head. With the Article 5, it allows 34 state legislatures to walk right on around the Congress that is not functioning, the court system who are handing down some bad rulings, and the executive branch that is not, as far as I can tell, is not for the states. So they need to learn this strategy, and so do you, and so do your kids. Get over to the website, order Charles' book, and educate yourself, your kids, and your state legislators, so we can turn this ship back into safe harbor and get this country back to the Constitution and back under God, where we belong. Did we lose Charles again? We're going to have to get him a signal booster if he's going to be out on the road.
Hello. And so that's part of the reason that I'm on the road right now. We want to help these legislators to move this thing forward in their legislatures. And we also want to move it so that by the first part of 2016 legislative session, the applications will be completed. Now, believing that that's possible, understand the timing. Let us assume for the moment that the timing is that we can secure 34 applications by, let's say, the second quarter of 2016, which would be toward the end of the legislative sessions in most states. All right, now Congress is being told in the application that they need to convene or call this convention for the Countermand Amendment Convention in 60 days. If they don't, the states, having met their constitutional requirement under Article 5, will have the authority to convene the convention on their own. Remember, the states are the ones that created the federal government. The federal government did not create the states. And so under Article 5, the states still have the sovereign authority to modify the conduct of the federal government. And so if Congress politicizes the issue and does not convene the convention in that 60-day period, the states have every right to convene it, because they're modifying the Constitution to make sure that the states are protected from federal encroachment. So let us assume it takes 60 days, and so maybe by the mid or the end of the summer of next year, the convention convenes. Well, because we have a delegate resolution with a pre-approved text for the Countermand Amendment, and because the delegate resolution binds the delegates the legislature sent to the convention, and because it also tells them how to organize the convention, so it's a Republican form of convention, one vote per state, that means, by the way, and also that it's a majority rule and the procedures for offices and so forth. Did you know that that convention could be convened in 7 days? 7 days! It doesn't take years, as some of our other Article 5 groups have been proposing. The fact is that the Balanced Budget Amendment has been going forward for almost 40 years, and they still haven't moved it to where they have a convention. Well, we can have the convention convene with this Countermand Amendment and then still control the budget. Did you know that once it's ratified, that if Congress passes a bill and the president signs it, that allows the government to go into another $1 trillion debt, the states could say, wait a minute, you're not going to impose that debt on our people anymore. You're adding $1 trillion every year. And that's been going on, by the way, for 6 years. So now what happens is the states get together, they get 30 countermands, that budget is rescinded. Congress can't honor that budget because it's been mandated through an amendment to the Constitution that Congress has to deal fairly with the states. Now, what does Congress have to do? They have two choices. They can rewrite the budget, which in the case of a budget they would have to do, and by doing that, they would have to do it in a way more amenable to the states, so that they look at the states as partners in government rather than addendums that are subject to their mandates. And then, if it's amenable, the states don't have to countermand it. and now we have an adequate budget. Now, think about that. The Balanced Budget Amendment doesn't do that. And as a matter of fact, the Balanced Budget Amendment, even if we wind up having a convention for the BBA, and we do have our own Balanced Budget Amendment, which we've been working on for several years, but the fact is, even if the Balanced Budget Amendment Convention is convened, it could take a year or more for that convention to figure out what Balanced Budget Amendment means. Again, you've heard me use the phrase 534 politically charged delegates could be sent to the convention. Well, that means that it could be nothing but confusion, because there are no rules, there are no pre-approved amendments, there's no Republican form of government, there's no majority rule, and they have to decide all these things. But at the same time, if the states decided before, because they're the sovereign bodies under Article 5, they then pre-approved the text, that convention too could be 7 days. So that's the second. And then the third is, once it's ratified, and I believe that once the amendment is sent from the convention to Congress, which it goes through Congress and then back to the states for ratification, which could be a very short period of time. But at any rate, let's assume it's in the third quarter of 2016. Now, the ratification could take place in maybe a few months. There could be some special sessions for the states that aren't in session. And so by the end of 2016, the third quarter, maybe at least the fourth quarter, the states could be starting individual countermand initiatives. So through the National Strategy Committee, the members, including mostly legislators, will be actually deciding what needs to be countermanded. And then citizen initiatives, as their servant, really, as their facilitator, will actually work with the state legislatures to actually get this thing coordinated and secure those 30 countermen for that particular law or ruling, whatever it is. So that's how powerful this is. So by the end of 2016, we could be getting our country back. We could be reclaiming this nation. And that is very, very important. Now, Kelly, I am off the internet, and I can't connect with you right now. So when you want me to stop, you just let me know or interrupt me. Or Sandy, if you have something to say also, because I don't have a timer right now.
Okay, Charles.
Did you hear what I said, Kelly?
Yes, sir. We have 5 minutes left. And
okay. And if you have something to say, you feel free to do so.
Sandy, go right ahead.
Thank you so much. I am so excited about finding a way that is safe, that puts a balance there where the states can have the sovereignty to stop federal encroachment, but yet the federal government still has the power to do the things it's supposed to do. So that is kind of very exciting to me about the countermand.
It is. We actually have a shot at a peaceful resolution here with the Countermand Amendment.
Not only, and ladies, I'll tell you something else that's important. The fact is that with the Countermand Amendment, we do not alter the Constitution. We don't change the inalienable rights in the Bill of Rights. We don't change the structure of the 3 branches of government. We don't actually change anything in the Constitution. All we do with the countermand is empower the state legislatures to protect the Constitution, which includes their constitutional republic states' rights. That's incredible. It's a way in which the nation can see its republic restored and preserve states, the individual states' rights and their excellences. There is a character in states. Every one of the 50 states have a different character and a different excellence. It can be preserved with the Countermand Amendment, and it doesn't make the rest of the Constitution null and void. Very, very important. Go ahead, Sandy.
Well, every day I get so frustrated when I see what's happening, and it drives me crazy. And I think the possibility of the countermand is the only thing that keeps me sane. because I have ranted and raved at the news so much that it gets to be rather ridiculous. I sound ridiculous.
Well, our state legislators are figuring out the strategy of the Article 5 and the power of the countermand and the importance of that delegate resolution that's going to define and control the convention, that's going to keep it safe, quick, successful, without all the chaos and mayhem. Charles, you've got 1.5 minutes to close us out with prayer, please.
Thank you. I will do that. Remember, folks, you can listen to the State Legislators Roundtable on Tuesdays from 9 p.m. and to 10, 9 p.m. to 11, on Fridays from 8 to 10. Now, folks, it's our custom to close our sessions in prayer, and we're going to do that right now. We'd like you to come back this Friday. Go to countermand.us. Figure out how you can help us. This is an important work that you want to be part of because we are making constitutional history. Lord, we come in the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ, and we thank you that we have this privilege. And we also come realizing, sir, that if we don't see your guidance in the work that we're doing, with the wisdom that we need, with the finances, with the helpers, with the support that comes from the legislatures, if we don't see that guidance, we will fail. So we implore you, Lord, give us the strength, give us the wisdom, give us the resources, give us the understandings, give us the relationships to others that will bring this thing to fruition so we can see this country returning to being a God-fearing people one more time. And we ask that through your Son, Jesus. Amen. Go ahead, Kelly. You can close out.
And tune in Friday to see where Charles is going to be.
That's right. I wonder where Charles will be next Friday. Well, thank you everyone
I'm not
for
even
tuning
sure.
in.
I think I'm.
Where?
I think I'm in Wyoming, but I'm not sure. No, I'm not in Wyoming. I'm in. I might. Wait a minute. I don't even know. I don't have my schedule in front of me.
Well, it's going to be a surprise.
Well, let it be a surprise to our viewers.
That's right.
What I want, remind the audience to go to the countermandamendment.us website, and there's a schedule right there. They click the schedule, and